Okay, you need 4 pieces of quilting cotton, a piece of elastic about 15 or more inches long, 2 pieces of stiff stabilizer, 2 pieces of foam fusible or sew-in, and 4 pieces of interfacing like Pellon 911F. You're going to start by interfacing all 4 of your pieces with that 911 or SF101, whatever you want to use. And then you're going to fold up the bottom of each piece like you see in this picture, a 1/2 inch. Okay, welcome to the basement. All right, I'm sewing up my bottoms of my all 4 pieces of this iron hand thing. And I'm sewing it so that, especially for the 2 outer ones, you want to make sure that you're sewing really close to the edge up here so that you're making a casing for elastic to go in later on. Only the 2 outer layers will need the casing, but I just do the same thing for all 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, my 2 outer pieces are going to get the like hard stabilizer, either Decaville or maybe like Peltex. I don't know. I'm just using this. Something fusible and stiff. Okay, my 2 outers are fused. So you could see the way this is up a 1/2 inch. Now the interfacing that you cut, or the stabilizer you cut, just sits along the edge of that and then gets fused and centered. And that's those 2. Okay, now my 2 inner pieces that are going to be basically sandwiching my hand on the inside of the glove have the foam on them. And if you have fusible foam, I would say use that. I just have the sew-in, so I'm just going to really quickly baste the sew-in foam to each of my inner pieces, and I'll be back. Okay, so before we start actually sandwiching all the stuff together and putting it all together, take your 2 outer pieces, and I really suggest, you don't have to do this, but I would suggest putting your elastic through the casing before we start putting these together, and just making sure you have enough loose elastic that it doesn't matter that you put it in first. So I'm gonna thread my elastic through now, and you'll see why. I mean, so you don't want it to bunch up now. You still want it to be the same, the bottom to be the same length as the rest of it, but trying to thread this elastic through this once it's put together proved to be difficult. So I'm just going to do it now. I'll be back. Okay, so I just threaded my elastic through the casing on both of these, and like as you can see, I just had enough elastic to thread it through without changing the length yet of this. It's just threaded through, and we will kind of bunch it up later when we want to fit it to our hands. But you don't have to do this step right now. You can do this later after it's all sewn up. I just felt like this was easier this way. And if you don't have quite as long of elastic, you might want to wait till later so that you don't have to use it all. Okay guys, here we go. So we're going to take the 2 outer pieces that have the elastic threaded through them. We're going to put them right sides together, sandwich them like this. And when I did this the first time, I basted these together as well before moving on to the next step. And that's because this machine, I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I tried to put this many layers through. and I didn't want them shifting all around. So I'm just gonna do that again, although you don't, again, this is not something you have to do, but I'm just gonna baste them together. When you sew the two outer pieces right sides together, you don't want to sew through the elastic casing yet. So start right above it, go all the way up and down, and then stop before you get to the tubing. Outer pieces are now right sides together, basted together. And now we're gonna take our inner pieces, our padded pieces here, and now you wanna put the wrong side to the wrong side of one outer piece, and then you wanna take the other one and put the wrong side to the wrong side, okay? And you're gonna sandwich all these together and clip them together and sew them up with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And one more thing, when you sew it up again, don't sew through the bottom of this casing where the elastic is. Start just above it, go all the way around, and then stop before you get to it on the other side. Whew, you guys, I was on the edge of my seat. I'm actually standing, but if I were sitting, I would have been on the edge of my seat. Okay, so now it is sewn 1/4 inch around. I did not sew the bottom, and I stopped before the elastic. At this point, we're going to trim out any threads and turn this. Actually, make sure you cut the top, like the point off the top, just to make the, turning it easier. So I trimmed the top there. I'm not going to trim around because I don't have that much to trim here, but at this point we're going to turn it, and this part is tough. Like, it's not impossible, but it does take a little, you got to put some elbow grease into it. Okay, I'm going to turn it. I'm going to use a chopstick, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm just poking out the top now. So it's possible, but it does take a little strength. It's a workout. Okay, so now I have basically this. You probably wouldn't even need to use the elastic. You could stick your hand in this and use it as is, but I wanted it to not slip. I wanted it to not slip off my hands as I was using it. At this point in time, like a lot of people, maybe with their machines, could just sew the elastic down on the two ends and then snip the elastic off and call it a day. But I can't do that because I don't think this will fit at this point under my machine, and I'm just not willing to try it. I've put my machine through enough, I think. So I'm going to just tie the elastic off. Once I have it to where I want it, where it fits my hand well, and it's kind of like just snug around my wrist, or, fitting my wrist well, I'm gonna take it off and then tie off the elastic. And tie it a couple times and tie it tight. Kind of tuck it in there so it's facing inside, and then cut the elastic off. Just like that. And here you go. I have my my irony thing. Pretty simple. I don't have any bags right now, but here you go. Just so you can see. I have my iron. It's been on since I've been making this whole video. So it's well heated. It's got water in it. I'm holding my hand directly on the iron. I'm not burning my hand or anything like that. It keeps it protected fairly well. There you have it.